So this is an Ascendle Unscripted quick hitter. We're going to share some thoughts and some ideas around thought leadership and why it's important. So we'll just start here with the why.
Well, Michael, thank you so much for having me. It is so critical to have a real thought leadership point of view in today's world because it is so noisy. It's so crowded. How do you make your marketing stick out? I think there's two things. One is you need to have really clear messaging so people can come to your website, they go to your LinkedIn, they know what you do, who you are, what that value is. And two, that you understand what they're going through. You understand the challenges they're facing in their industry, in their market, and get the bigger picture, right? You're not just trying to sell them a product, you're trying to really help them. And that is where I think thought leadership and providing helpful information as well as a unique point of view can really differentiate your organization.
Jacki, thank you for that. Susannah.
Yeah, I'll just build on what Jacki said a little bit. I think we're living in a world right now where we don't know what's fake, what's paid advertising, and what's real. And I think thought leadership is a easy way through that noise and a way to build authenticity and connection different from advertising in the traditional sense. So I think all of us humans are craving this authenticity in a world that's just saturated with things trying to sell to us. You know, all the programs and platforms we use, they've all evolved, and all of it's about advertising now, right? So getting to a thought leadership perspective, point of view, approach clears that and makes space for, connection and being helpful.
Susannah, thank you for that. Let's dive in on some serious how-tos. What can folks do who have not stepped in that direction, who might be a little worried about it, who might have some fears? I would love to hear from both of you what some of those apprehensions might be, and then some ways around them and how someone can get started, like literally today, right now, on that path to thought leadership.
So I have tackled this myself in the last year. And background, I was a social media manager for 6 years, like over a decade ago. So I had done that professionally. I will tell you, it's a very different world now and also B2B. But I actually think if you're not doing it now is the time. There's still a lot of space, and I don't know the exact numbers, but in terms of people who are looking at LinkedIn every day versus people actually posting even weekly, there's a lot of opportunity still. So now is the time. I could give you so many tips on how to do it and when to do it and why to do it. It's once or twice a week to start makes a big difference. I am very focused on giving educational and helpful information, and that's gotten a lot of engagement. And I just, I'm a consultant. Let me just start posting and see if there's some value. And there has been, and it has been incredible. I've built a lot of relationships from it, people who I now think of as my colleagues. I actually had a meeting earlier today with a group of women who are all freelancers in my industry, and we've come together just because of LinkedIn. And so I do think there's real relationships you can build digitally that is somewhat a different audience than you might get at in-person locations and events. There's opportunity to share, and it does take a little bit of thought and time. I am a big proponent of content pillars. I usually pick 3, and it's what are the 3 types of topics you're going to talk about. So one of them is going to be about your business and likely the backgrounds, the inner workings, or the exciting type things, or we're going to this event, or we released this feature, but not a lot of product type stuff. And then the other 2 are the areas that you can provide value and thought on, and really try to keep to that, because then you build your credibility in those areas. And so I talk a lot about product marketing, primarily. And I talk a bit about being a fractional marketing leader and what is that like in a different world. And so I have my audiences within hospitality and hospitality technology, and I have my product marketing audiences. And keeping up with it, the consistency makes a difference on LinkedIn in terms of the algorithm, which is frustrating because it does take time. My other tip is you don't have to be the best writer, because I know that people feel a little bit concerned about that. You can do voice to text on your phone that you think of a topic and just say it and then go back and edit. And those have been some of, I think, the best posts that I've done, because it was just something that I was like, oh, I thought of this today. This was bothering me, or I had a really interesting conversation or a story. Stories perform really, really well. So people want to buy from people. They don't want to buy from brands. We're seeing the engagement with people and leaders and organizations grow tremendously. And we're seeing like LinkedIn brand pages really start to decline in engagement. So if you can put some time into it, I really do think you'll see the value.
Jacki, thank you so much for that. Really, I feel like that's going to be incredibly valuable, because there is a lot of fear, confusion, there's a lot of barriers, but everything that you laid out there is very, very doable in a very minimal amount of time. And I feel like the friction, a lot of times, myself included, can come from just the fear or not wanting to start, rather than like, hey, I know the voice notes on my phone. Here's a voice note, just kind of like, say what, just kind of just stream of consciousness, take it, get on there a couple minutes a week and just share. One of the things I like to think about is, or share with an audience, is around the question, here's how you could or should be thinking, and really thinking about that forward value. Susannah, do you have any thoughts around, thought leadership? And I know this has actually been a journey for you as well, if you don't mind.
It has. I was quietly nodding and thinking about how I've been through kind of that exact continuum that you were describing, and what it was that was holding me back originally. And it's that fear. It's that, fear of embarrassment. I don't want to get out there and say something wrong, or, look like I'm trying to bring attention to myself. But once you get over that and you realize that your perspectives and viewpoints are valuable, even if people don't agree, it's valuable for people to be exposed to that and have the opportunity to think about it and respond to it. For me, that was the hurdle to get over. And then once I was able to do that, it was a lot easier to start leveraging this path.
And that just made me think. I read somewhere, and I thought that was really helpful. Write about things you didn't know a year ago or 5 years ago, because we take for granted everything we know.
Absolutely.
And you assume other people know it.
Yep.
And you assume everybody knows what you know, and vice versa. I do want to highlight one thing before we wrap. Susannah, I think that point that you made about not being afraid to challenge is so important. And when folks get together who are true thought leaders, one of the things that is an essential ingredient to innovation, and I'm going to wrap it up with Edwin Land. Here we go. I'm going to give you a second Edwin Land quote on one episode. He would say, politeness is the poison of collaboration. Meaning that if you're trying to be polite all the time, you're never really going to innovate, because you're not going to have you're going to be like, well, I don't want to say that. Maybe it'll sound dumb, or I'll insult this person. But what I'm hearing, the way you talked about it, Susannah, was don't be afraid to gently challenge, to maybe put an idea out there that might be challenged. And this is how an industry, a market segment, a group comes to a third idea. An idea that was neither yours nor theirs, but this third direction. But I do believe it can only happen when you might say, I agree with this. I think this might be a better way to go around AI, name the topic sort of thing. So I think that's going to be a big takeaway for folks listening to this. So not be afraid to gently challenge the status quo. And of course, offer your reason, not just,
right,
because I think so, but like, offering some, validity and some proof behind it, or why you think this way, I think could be really compelling.
Yep.
Thank you both.
Agreed.
Yeah, thank you to our audience for always tuning in. Ascendle Unscripted is available on all major platforms. Until next time, Jacki, thank you so much for joining us. It was wonderful to have you. Susannah, as always, a pleasure. Susannah, as always, great to see you and collaborate with you. Until next time, this is Ascendle Unscripted.